Hello and welcome to Let's Play Tycoon 3 Let's Play episode. Okay, I already fucked up my intro. There goes the rest of my video down the drain. In any case, this is not really going to be the best video ever. It's just a bit of, you know, some of those things that you really have to do. I'm not even sure about the end results, but basically what I was going to do in this episode was do some path works near the entrance, try to kind of finish that area, even though I'm not even going to start working on the parking lots and the kind of path that is going to be leading from the parking lot to the entrance area. I also need to do some ticket booths and stuff like that, but basically at this point I just felt like I wanted to make some kind of basic entrance area with some basic paths and stuff like that, so I would actually have some kind of an idea what the area was going to look like, because basically in a way this was kind of modeled after the what's that thing called again, the hotel in Disneyland Paris kind of thing, where you kind of have that building, that huge building as an entrance, and then you have some gardens in front of it, and this kind of has a similar idea. The only problems that I was kind of running into with this is that I'm really not that sure about the shapes of these pathworks. As you can see, it's just a random little thing over here. Kind of reminded me of something, but I completely forgot what that was. It's really not the most, I don't know, common thing. I just wanted to have something over here which would make it look less boring than just having nothing, but having a symmetrical shape like this, I don't even know if that's the best thing I could do, honestly, over here. One other thing was, I've talked about the entrance building with Jake yesterday, and he was like, dude, it's kind of too big to actually just be a normal entrance building and a train station at the same time, which is kind of a good point, because the thing that, you know, the main street is missing at the moment, and I do kind of realize this, is that, you know, there's not really a huge building at the end of it, which is kind of what you would want to have at the end of a main street. Disney has that enormous, beautiful castle at the end of the main street, and you just look at that. You can already see it at the beginning of the main street, and it's just something you want to get to, and it just looks great. But that's not something I have over here, but rather the huge castle-ish building is the entrance building, and I guess this is a bit of the problem that I was going to get anyway when I tried to have the train station and the entrance building in one building, because I also just wanted to have this entrance building be quite large and detailed, because it, you know, it looks intimidating is not really the word, but it just looks cool when you enter the park, I suppose. But yeah, in a way it's not really the most fitting thing, but I think I'll just keep it up like this and have some kind of chair swing near the end of the main street. And maybe I'll add a castle, and this is, I don't know if I've really talked about this in the Let's Play yet, but there are a couple of ideas about the castle at the end of the park. I don't really know if any of the ideas are going to be too great, because they all do have a couple of pros and cons to them. One of the ideas was to just build one castle, kind of like Disney does it, which would be a bit of a rip-off, but then again it wouldn't be, because the idea was to get all of the different themes, at least in some way, represented in the castle. So it would be a mix of Asian and European within one castle. Maybe even one side of the castle be Asian and another side European. But really I'm not sure about this, because as cool as it sounds as an idea, it's pretty good in theory, but trying to actually build that in Tycoon 3, I feel like I really can't do that. I might spend a lot of time trying to get that right, and honestly, I think I'll just completely fail on that, so I don't know about that. Another idea was to have two castles, one on the left side where I have the European theme. I would also have a Romanian-ish castle, and on the right side of the park where I have the Asian theme, have an Asian castle. But this is also a bit of a problem, because you would want to have some kind of symmetry within the castles, but the problem with an Asian castle is that I would most likely go for a Japanese kind of castle, which wouldn't really have the same kind of shape or towers and details and things like that, like a European castle. European castles have massive loads of details on them and towers and all kinds of fancy decorations, but Japanese castles don't really have that in a large sense. It's just a very standard-ish structural build, so that's also a bit of a problem. Another idea was to build a Russian kind of castle building, which is another problem, because those don't really come with any towers or anything that you'd really want to have at the end of a main street. So actually the idea that I might just go with is to just have nothing over there. But if there's anybody who has a different idea, then it's also appreciations are always welcome, and I might just look at it. In all honesty, I don't think I was even the person to come up with the idea to have a chair swing at the end of the main street, and so far that's actually been working out fine too. So you might always take on those suggestions, because honestly, it's really not going to work without just some good feedback sometimes. In any case, I should probably just talk about these paths. I've been off-topic talking, like I always do. Though honestly, there's not really too much going on this thing, just a couple weird path cover things. Yeah, I was a bit in doubt about those side things, because as you can see, they have different colors, and at first they were all the same colors, and I've actually had some backlash about that, where even I myself kind of figured, okay, why is that really necessary? It really isn't. It just looks somewhat fancy when you're looking from a bird's eye view, but honestly, there's no real advantage to it other than just to keep some kind of variation in there, because it doesn't really seem like the most realistic or good looking thing in any way. But in the end, I kind of feel okay about them, with having foliage and different fences along the side. So that was mainly one thing to keep in mind, that there is going to be quite some foliage on this park, even having some trees in those middle planters. So it's all going to look very different than it looks right now. Not to mention that having paths just without any decorations on them, like benches, lights and fences, they look so much different than when they are completely finished. So it's really hard to actually judge paths before they're finished in a way. So I usually just like to kind of finish them and then see if there's anything in the shapes that I can improve upon, because it's just hard to judge them before you actually do that. Now here is a bit of fence work. I think I removed these fences in the end. Yeah, I think it's just the downside to having fences is it really makes your paths look a lot smaller, and if you have very narrow paths, then it could work if you're, for example, running some paths underneath a coaster or just a shortcut somewhere. But in an entrance area, I felt like, nah, that's not going to work too well, honestly. And then here's a bit of tree work. Finally, some foliage work. Some actual foliage. Because that's also one thing that, you know, I was kind of missing over here. I want to get to the foliage as soon as I kind of finish the buildings and other scenery things in a general area, because that only after you add the foliage, it's kind of similar to how only after you add the details to paths, you can actually judge the way they look very well. Only after you add the foliage to an area are you able to actually judge how it looks. Foliage just makes so much of a difference that I just wanted to get that in there, see how the area looks with those trees, and then decide to either completely redo this area or to keep it and work on it. And I was content enough about it to just keep working on it. I'm really not so sure about these shapes, but then again, on one hand I figured, will I really be able to get much better shapes in any way? And would it also be worth it to try again and possibly feel even worse? One thing that I am considering though is to replace those path borders at some point in time, because I don't feel too good about having branches, bedrock borders on the sides of the paths, especially if there are so many borders with having all these curves and sideways and stuff like that. So I might replace them sometime in the future, but for now they're going to stay. And really, at this point, I just kind of wanted to work on this middle thing, and you'll see me placing some fountains and random stuff on the small hill in the middle. That's kind of because I was planning other things than just having some random in-game object in the middle. I actually want to get some kind of statue on which I can put the name and or the logo of the park, because that seems like a cool idea. So that's something to do in the future, but for now I just felt like no, I don't feel like doing that. I'll just do that later on, because that's how professional I am when it comes to this stuff. No, I'm definitely... Okay, I shouldn't pick my nose when I'm doing this. I'm definitely not professional in a sense that these videos are going to be great, but I've talked about that before. You know, these time-lapses are really not going to be too amazing. There's a lot of testing things and just, in general, kind of, you know, moving around. And I do feel kind of bad about this, because even though I was testing with certain things, you can never get things right away, and I was still pretty happy about this time lapse, because sometimes I just take hours to get something right. To be very honest, on the last stream that I had a couple of days ago, I spent more than an hour on one roof, and this was a 2x2 tile roof. I was just going through sets and all kinds of things, and that's the type of stuff that I wouldn't want to have in time lapses, because that would mean that an entire time lapse was made up of just me building one roof, and that would be honestly terrible. So I guess in that sense it's still okay, but still not really the best time-lapse action over here. And it's I don't know about the square either. It's just something that I wanted to get here, and honestly next time we'll move on. I'm not going to do the parking lot yet, because I don't even know. I can't. That's basically it. I can't. I don't have enough experience, I suppose, when it comes to parking lots, but also I don't feel like doing it. Like, what's the point? It's just one of those backstage things that I'm not really a huge fan of, because I'm more into it for the scenery aspect rather than the theme park aspect as a whole. Even though I do want to kind of focus on that with this park more than I usually do, it is still not something that I really look forward to doing too much. So next thing I want to do is just to finally branch out into the rest of the park, start building that main square, and start building some goddamn rides, because that is not even happening yet, and we're like 8 episodes in. Yeah, I think this is maybe even the 9th episode. Maybe, I don't even know. But in any case, it is really some time for some rides, honestly. So I'll start on that pretty soon, because I actually think that's going to be the next episode with that little chair swing thingamajig. So that's going to be cool. Also, I just wanted to kind of fix a couple of things on the main street, honestly. This tower didn't really look too good. It was exactly the same as the tower on the other side. So at some point in time, I removed that little tower top on it, which I got from, what's that thing called again? Ghost Cabin by Station Jim Jr., yeah. But then it looked a bit derpy, so I guess the best thing to do here was just to raise that standard type of main street roof 2 tiles, and then see how that looks. And I think it's pretty okay. It works pretty well. And that's pretty much it when it comes to this part, by the way. This will be the end of the main street, nothing else, and won't really add anything to the other side either. At this point in time, I might just add a couple of things if I really want to change them, or if I do get some feedback of which I think, yeah, okay, I done goofed over there, I really need to do something about that, then there'll still be some small changes to the main street, but these are really just adding the final touches to the main street and leaving it like this. Except, at some point in time, I should really try to add a trolley to that thing. I really need to get like some kind of CT using which I can add a trolley to that thing, because it is a main street after all, and it is very necessary to have a trolley in such a thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The next step is the next area that I want to go into after I finish the square, by the way, is going to be the Spain/Italy/Greece area. Basically the Mediterranean European countries. I think that's pretty much it. Maybe a bit of Croatia in there as well. Slight touches, I don't really know. We'll see at some point in time. But that's going to be that area which I'll work on first. But first, I kind of still need to finish that main square, which I think will take about 2 episodes to finish that thing, because there's a lot of path work to be worked on when it comes to that main square. There is the chair swing and other things, but I'll talk about that when I get to that. I first want to work on that Italy/Greece thing and get a log flume in there, maybe some other attractions, and we'll just see how it all goes. I think it should be pretty fun. It's honestly not the first area that I wanted to get in theme-wise, but I think it is the best area to get in to just keep a kind of good park layout, because it is going to be the main area, which is going to be to the left of the entrance right away, so I can also kind of experiment with the backstage areas, how I'm going to do that, and see how the park layout is going to work. And that area is going to have a lot of water, maybe even a couple of fake beaches, stuff like that, but I'm really way too much ahead again. I shouldn't talk about that. What am I even doing? Yeah, just flowers. Everybody knows how much I love flowers. Don't really even need to talk about that. I suppose that's the reason why. Just wanted to add a bunch of flowers to this main kind of area, though not too much, because, you know, it's quick to have a flower overkill. And the best thing when it comes to flowers is to not mix too many colors in one planter, and also keep them close to your paths. Always keep your flowers close to your paths, unless they're flowers that don't have to be maintained, but just don't go too overboard with the different flowers, and I think in that respect this entrance area kind of works. In any case, that's it for this episode. I'll see you all next episode, in which I'll actually do that square, so till then.